This is the Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while the option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. There is a phone number you can call if you'd like to attend the meeting by phone. It is 1-929-205-6099. Our first item on the agenda is an administrative review, 243 Riverneck Road Realty Trust, a permit extension request to a modification for the approved comprehensive permit. The applicant is requesting an extension of 1 year. Someone here to speak for the Riverneck Road?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Douglas DeShane from Finneran and Nicholson, here representing Riverneck Road Realty Trust. Riverneck Road Realty Trust is the owner of the property at 243 Riverneck Road. The board will recall that a comprehensive permit had been previously issued for this site for the development of 48 garden-style apartments. This site and this project has a very long history. Some of you may have a better understanding of it than I. I'm only coming into this recently, but I do understand it has been a very complex and very long journey to get to where we are today. That permit was in 2019 extended by this board for a 3-year period and therefore is due to expire in March of this year. Since that time, as I say, since 2019, when you first issued the last extension, the project has been involved in yet continued protracted litigation, which I'm happy to say is over. And also, as you can imagine, we have been impacted by the COVID pandemic. There's just no question. Currently, Riverneck Road Realty Trust has entered into an agreement to convey the property to 242 Riverneck LLC, which is a limited dividend company managed by Ashok Patel. Some of you may know Ashok is an owner of a number of commercial properties here in Chelmsford. He's done a ton of development both here and throughout the New England, Merrimack Valley area, and he currently controls 3 hotels here in Chelmsford. Mr. Patel, we are currently in the process of transferring the permit to Mr. Patel's limited dividend company through Mass Housing. And then upon the completion of that transfer, we will be filing with this board to modify the project. Mr. Patel is not interested in building the 48 garden-style apartment building that was proposed and previously approved, but rather we will be filing with this board to modify that permit to allow for the development of 21 units rather than 48. Of those 21 units, 5 are expected to be single-family homes, smaller, starter home style single-family homes, and 16 townhouse-style rental units. The reason that Mr. Patel has decided to purchase this land and to move forward with the project is, given that he owns the 3 hotels here in town, he has a number of employees, and like everyone else, it's difficult finding local housing for employees. So Mr. Patel is hopeful that in addition to creating affordable units that will be available to the public and to those qualifying, he's also hoping to generate these 21 units for availability to his employees so that they have a place to live close by their jobs and hopefully allow him to keep his quality help that are struggling to find. So the reason we're here for the extension is because given that the extension is set to expire in March, We want to make sure we have time to file the transfer papers with Mass Housing, which we're hoping to do in the next couple weeks. So we're on track there. And then there'll be a process there. Mass Housing will decide whether Mr. Patel's entity is a qualified entity to build a 40B. I can tell you he's got tremendous amount of development experience, so we're confident in that regard. And then once that transfer is approved, we are having our engineers now prepare the new plans for the 21 units, which we will then file with this board requesting a modification of the permit to allow for the 21 units. And we'll come in and, we'll go through that process in a very comprehensive manner. We are also planning, as you would expect, before filing for the modification request, we will be holding a neighborhood meeting to get the neighbors on board with what we're proposing, and so that we can have an opportunity to explain to them that the reduction from 48 units down to 21 and the new design being townhouses and some single-family homes will be much more beneficial for the neighborhood. I think it's going to have reduced impacts to the site. As you know, there's endangered species habitat out there, and the Conservation Commission went through a lot of work. We're going to be able to build the new project without intruding on any of that. In fact, we've already verified that our conservation management permit from the DEP is still valid, and that the new project will fit well within the building area that they approved. So we will have less impact on the site. We're going to reduce our utility needs. We will not need sewer for 42 units. We will only need it for 21. So we'll be able to, in essence, give back some of the sewer capacity that had been awarded to the site. And obviously less water, less everything, because we're reducing the project by so much. Overall, though, less traffic. We're going to have a lot less people coming and going. So overall, we feel it'll have a lot less impact to the neighbors. So we're looking forward to meeting with them to discuss that and get their input and hopefully their participation before filing for the modification. But at the end of the day, with all due respect, my client's spending a lot of money and moving forward here with the transfer request and then ultimately with the modification request. But we can't do that if, in fact, this permit might expire before we can get to the end line. So I've only asked for a 1-year extension. I know typically it's 3, but I do also realize this board has previously provided a number of extensions, and so I didn't want to be overbearing. And also, I had a conversation recently with town council. After this request was filed, some of you may know that because of the COVID Emergency Act, number 19, state permits have been extended. We do believe that that extension will apply to this permit, so we are going to get a significant amount of extension under that. However, at the time I applied and asked, that hadn't been verified. We didn't know that was going to apply in that manner for us, so we were desperate to get a 1-year extension so that we could continue with the process. In light of the COVID extension, though, I would still ask the board to consider granting us a 12-month extension from the whatever date it now expires. We're hoping, we do believe that 1 year would give us enough time to get the transfer stuff done, which, again, we're filing in the next couple weeks. And then even assuming a 180-day process with this board on the modification request, we feel we can fit that into a year. But with the way the world's been going lately, I'm not going to bet the farm on it, so to speak. So while we do believe that the COVID relief will give us enough time, I really don't. I'm not a betting person. I don't want to bet my clients' time and energy and money on this, that we will get it finished in that time, because there could be appeals. No one knows what it would be. So I'd ask the board to respectfully consider granting us a 1-year extension from whatever the date is of the current expiration of the permit under the COVID extension, so.
So you'd like a year from the date of the COVID,
Whatever the COVID,
that should be 441 days, so you'd be done in March. So we'd be extending to July 24 or something?
again, both my client and I certainly hope we're not gonna need that time. We're on a time frame of getting this done as quickly as possible, but, you know, again, given the uncertainty of the world, you know.
Yeah, no, I
wouldn't hurt to
appreciate
have
it. I just am trying to understand whether we should extend it for, it becomes non-specific when we don't really know what that day would be. I mean, I would be more comfortable going with a 2-year extension from
March.
March. We'll say March 1st, but whatever your extension date is.
Yep.
Then we do a 2-year extension.
March 7th is the,
It just seems it's going to get
no, Mr. Chairman, that's
convoluted.
more
Then
than
if they add
reasonable.
to the restrictions for, or the
Yep.
extension for COVID relief,
Mm-hmm.
it's just going to become some lost number, so.
No,
I
that's
would feel
more
better
than
doing a
reasonable.
Specific,
That would be more than reasonable. The date that is currently expiring on its face is March 7th of '22, so it would be March 7th of '24.
is that, any questions from the board? We're not voting yet, so.
If the current extension is up in March,
Yes.
and you're given 441 days for COVID,
Yep.
and we give you a year, that ends up that you actually get 2.5 years.
Well, no, I think what
That's
the
my
chairman
concern
is
too, but
saying,
that's why I think we should set a,
you go
set a
2 years
date.
from March
Yes, but
7th.
doesn't he get it by right, the COVID? You can't waive that COVID?
Yeah, we only get 400.
441, I thought, but I'm
Right.
I'm
And
not sure.
if they get 441, that's a year, almost a year and a half.
Yep.
Can't they come back again and ask for an extension if that doesn't prove to be enough? Why
I
do they
think-
need to get
I
it now?
don't think there's a limit to the extensions we can grant. I think they're somewhat frugal about it, but this has really been a problematic site since day one. It is really, and personally, I'm really excited that they're going to almost more than half the units.
More than
right? Yeah,
half.
48 to 21, so
Mr. Diggs, I
reduced by
think,
60% the units. I think we're going to suffer a little with our housing count because they were rentals, and I'm assuming these are going to be
yep,
rentals.
well, the 16 townhouses are rentals, the 5 houses are for sale, but we also have to provide 20% of those as affordable as well. Mr. Diggs, I think what the chairman was suggesting is that if we go with a 2-year extension from March 7th, you are correct, we would be getting 400 some odd days of that under COVID. So really, that extension really gives us another 5
200
months,
days,
6
yeah.
months, really.
It doesn't run concurrent? In other words, if we give them an extension of 2 years,
Yes, it runs
COVID
concurrent.
not kick in until that's expired?
No, it's
Or is
concurrent.
that-
If things stand the way they are, our extension would actually be longer than the COVID is now,
By,
5 months or
months.
something,
I
yeah.
think what, I think
Not
what
in
Mr. Diggs is
conjunction.
asking is if we give him an extension of 2 years, can they come back at the end of 2 years and say, well, we want the COVID extension now on top?
Which is
know.
another year and a half. Why
No,
can't they do
I
that?
think our extension would run longer than the COVID extension.
but it doesn't
And then-
start at the end. They run together.
Okay.
The
They
2
run
years
concurrently.
would run,
Yeah.
and the 465 or 60 days would run concurrently. So really, a 2-year extension from this board represents a couple of
720.
hundred days beyond the COVID.
And gives us a fixed date that
A
we're not.
fixed date.
Do we
correct.
know that is in fact true?
Yes.
Does
And the
anyone
only-
have the expertise to say that's the exact, I mean,
they
Paul
run
Haverty could explain that in, in defunct terms.
And the only
But we're
reason-
taking his viewpoint that that's true. Does anyone know that that's true?
I spoke with Mr. Haverty and to verify that, that he agreed that the COVID extension applied. And it does. And it,
Yeah,
and
so
it-
I believe that as well, that the code,
It runs from-
regardless, you have 441 days from March 7th, right now.
Correct.
We'd be extending that to 720, 730 days.
right.
Here-
But not on top of the 400, it would.
Correct.
It would
They'd be
overlap.
running concurrent.
Correct,
If we
sir.
approve it, can we include language that it's concurrent?
Running
Just to
concurrently.
satisfy
Yeah, I
his
think we could do
concern
that. We could
it
put
may or may
verbiage
not.
that would do that.
Your language should say that it runs from 2 years, from March 7th, 2022,
If-
irregardless of COVID.
If you put that language in,
They'd be-
and
That's a
it's,
good,
but it comes to fruition by town council that that's not true, where do you stand then?
So my question is, we're here because you're not sure if
with
you're
a
getting a
farm. I mean, they
COVID
would get a longer
extension?
extension.
No, at the time that I applied, we didn't know that we were gonna get the COVID extension. It was only after I applied, and that's why I called Mr. Haverty to say, I think I interrupted him poolside, by the way, I just let you know.
So you know you're getting the COVID extension, you know you only need 12 months to finish up your
Well,
business.
we, you know,
Within
we're struggling,
barely.
you know, we wanna make sure we can do it in 12, but
40 some odd days, I mean, that's 400 some odd days, okay.
Okay, I'm going to ask if the board has any other questions. I know Steve is now attending. Steve, have you been able to hear?
I've just been quiet.
Did you just come in, or were you there and
No,
not visible?
I've been here since the beginning, I just haven't said anything.
We couldn't see you either, so you were hiding.
I'm sneaky.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor or opposition to this administrative review? The gentleman in the back.
I just have a quick question.
Okay, there's two, so you can pick your poison and take the podium, please. And I could ask you for your name and address.
Deirdre Conley, 19 Billrica Road. I just am questioning about the housing units. Are they currently counted as the ones that are permitted? Are they currently counted in the
I don't,
affordable
they are
count?
not part of our current housing stock, but they are included in the potential for it.
So
but
when
they're not-
we-
until
when
they
we're
get
under
through-
10%, and
Right.
then they reduce from whatever it was, 48 to 21, will we be under by an additional number?
I don't believe they're counted in the housing stock yet, because they haven't been built.
Not really in our purview yet
And
either.
when was the original permit for this property?
Oh, 1880, it was a long time ago. I'd say
So-
10 years. Is,
Thought it was like 2011 I saw. I thought that was
that's
something.
11 years.
I mean, it seems
Maybe
odd
the
to
gentleman
me
in
that
the
you,
back knows. He's shaking his head no. I don't know.
odd to me that you just extend and extend and extend. Like, why do you have a permit duration and then extend it 7 times? Or, you know what I mean? That seems odd.
There was quite a bit of extenuating circumstances. There were lawsuits, which happened. You are entitled to extend the permit. It's not not necessarily a privilege. It's more of a right, but you do need to do it correctly, which includes coming to the board and saying, we've had this issue. I am not privy to them, but I know that there has been a lawsuit almost the entire time that this property's been approved. So, you know, they were all looking to do this, to improve it, to obviously make some money doing it. And none of that's happened, so I think everyone is looking for the best solution they can. I don't know what your thoughts are, being a neighbor, but seeing it reduced by 48 to 21,
No, I think it sounds like an improvement.
a better use, yeah, or less, so,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
You what? I'm not a neighbor.
Mike Rigney, 19 Billrica Road. Mr. Reedy, I sent you an email earlier today. I believe that this original permit was issued in 2003, according to the minutes of the last meeting where there was an extension granted. So that's 20 years ago. Obviously, there are a lot of details that are important, legal details about how a process like this works. I don't know them all, and so I won't presume to judge. But at least for special permits, there does seem to be some need to show an external reason for the need for a extension. And I would think that people squabbling amongst themselves on the ownership side is not really an external effect. If the development team
Well, I think if
can't
the
do
land is
their
in
job-
dispute, you can't,
I see.
you can't build.
Okay, yep.
So as much as I agree with this squabbling thing, I think once you go for a legal remedy, you can't build, so you are at an unfair advantage. If I just didn't want you to, I could just sue you and keep it going as long as I can, and effectively stop you by delaying. So
That's right, that's
I would have to
reasonable.
think that
and-
would be a legitimate reason to ask for an extension.
Yes, and that seems like an external.
Yes, I would think that was an external.
No, I understand that. I have two concerns about this additional extension. And the main one is that the extension is not being given so that they can proceed with the project. The extension is being requested so that they can completely change the project. And it seems like that should start over again. If they want to do a different project on the land, they should go through the normal channels rather than piggybacking on a previous project that's now being put in the dustbin. And one of the,
Mass Housing would have, I'm just telling you what I know, I'm not trying to interrupt, I'm sorry.
no, that's okay.
Mass Housing will decide if this is a minor or a major modification, and that is greatly going to determine the amount of work that has to be done to propose the changes. It wouldn't be our decision, it would be Mass Housing's decision whether the change is minor or major. If
Okay.
it's major, it could literally go right back to the drawing board and start over.
Right, and
Doug had
that,
mentioned the footprint is not going to expand at all, and I don't know if it's gonna contract, but
Right.
they won't be expanding any of the area which was so fiercely protected by conservationists in town, which I appreciate. There's some very, there's nice land out there that's gonna be fallow, it's not gonna be built on. There's a
right,
small
well, I
amount
mean,
of
it's not,
acreage that
it's
is.
not being built on now.
True, well, that's
So-
what we'll concern ourselves with for right now.
I think that is the other concern that I have with this aspect of the process, that at one point in time, the original proposal was reviewed and evaluated and then approved. The situation is quite a bit different now than it was in 2003. And by asking for an extension, essentially, they're skipping over the part where the project gets reviewed according to current circumstances. The most obvious change is that in 2003, there was no sewer moratorium.
Correct.
And while the proponent is suggesting that they'll use less, the fact is, if this were a brand-new project, they wouldn't have any sewer rights at all.
But it's not.
Well, it's not if you grant the extension, and that's, I guess, my concern with this aspect of the process, that by granting that extension, you're basically letting them start a project under 2003 conditions instead of 2022 conditions.
That's gonna come up.
Thank you.
They
And
come
we
back to
we are
us.
reducing the amount of sewerage theoretically. I think that's a pretty easy calculation. 48 units would use more water than 21 units, so.
Agreed.
I do appreciate what you're saying. I think the other caveat there is COVID is going to extend this anyways. It's going to get the extension, it has the extension by COVID. It's just not, not what the applicant is asking for. He's actually asking for a year, which we could grant. It just seems somewhat to set a final date is, in my thought, a wiser choice.
I would agree with that, honestly, for everyone's sake. I guess one last question, and it just occurred to me. The agenda says it's a request for 1 year.
It is?
Okay. So if you consider and request, consider and grant a request for 2 years, that isn't on the agenda? I honestly don't know.
Was it advertised, Doug?
No, I don't think,
An administrative review
it's
gets
not a
advertised.
public hearing, so it wasn't advertised. However, remember, when that is a question, when it's a question of notice, the question is, has the public been provided notice that the board is going to consider an extension of, and granted, we asked for 1 year. But understand, the same way the board, when I asked for 1 year, could say, well, Mr. Duchesne, we're willing to grant you 6 months. The board also has the authority
you
under
could
the
accept
request to
or
say, well,
reject that premise.
we think, we'd be willing to do this. So, yeah, the board has discretion to grant I've essentially requested an extension. I originally suggested 1 year, as I discussed. But the board has the authority to grant an extension of whatever duration it feels reasonable, whether it's more or less. And again, where this isn't a public hearing requiring notices to neighbor, there's no question of whether adequate notice was given. But I will tell you, even if it was, and the thing said that we were asking for an extension of 1 year, that's sufficient notice to everyone that, hey, they're asking for an extension. It might be a year, it could be less, could be more. So I do believe we've met, again, not that there are notice requirements. I do think the public has been given fair understanding of what we were asking for.
I think if we grant the 1 year extension, he would automatically be allowed the 441 after that. So we would be giving him less time.
So you're saying they wouldn't run concurrently?
We would
I
put
thought we
that
already
into the
Oh, that they don't run
extension,
concurrently.
that the COVID extension has been considered and included. I mean, what do you think? I don't know.
I,
I mean, there seems to be concerns for
Are
2
we
years.
allowed to
Do
ask
we-
how long is the ownership, or the lawsuit stuff been settled? Because 20 years does seem like an awfully long time to just be kind of
3
extending.
years ago, there were 2 claims to ownership when we granted the extension. At the table, there were 2 people that said they both owned the property. So it's been going on for, I don't know when that was resolved. That was the original owner.
Not all that long ago.
But it wasn't 10 years ago. Yeah, it was,
No,
it
that
was a
was just
year ago or
decided
whatever.
3 years ago, 2 owners appeared here and said, I own it, and I'm asking for this. It was Princeton Properties, and then another owner stood up, or another alleged owner, and said, I have claim to this land. And then they both decided it was in their best interest to get the extension, so they didn't fight it. They allowed the extension to go through. If they had, we would have been in land court rather than here, and then we would have been here, once ownership was determined.
And do we know that ownership has been determined?
I think at this point, it's Princeton Property owns it, and you have sold, you've closed.
No, it's been transferred. The
Okay,
current
okay.
owner, as I mentioned in my letter,
Right.
43 Riverneck Road, Trust. Excuse me, Riverneck Road Realty Trust is the owner.
Since, when did that become effective?
I'm gonna say,
Roughly 6
I'm
months?
guessing, 18, 19? Or no, it was just after the last extension.
After that, they,
It was
so,
sometime after the 2019 extension, that was settled in court, and the deed was transferred from Princeton to Riverneck Road Realty Trust. They are the current recorded owners of the property, without question.
do you want to grant a 1-year extension he asked for, and whatever happens with COVID is?
Was it even necessary based on the COVID?
Well, here's my
No, I don't think
question
it's
too.
necessary, but it is what he's
Yeah.
here asking for. I
What's-
don't know a reason to
Okay.
deny it.
Okay, right.
Since the state of emergency was ended in June, and most or all of those were what is the,
I think it goes along, if you have this amount of time, you get, and I say 441, I may be wrong, but you get that block of time at the end of your permit period. Because everything that was extended, it could be any day,
But
every
does that
day.
mean they're just not granting any new extensions because of the COVID? So I think with Jamie's,
They could come out tomorrow and extend it with COVID again. It wouldn't be a
So
huge surprise if they did. I don't know that that's anyone's thought, but that's all they did, is extend all the every permit that was issued.
are they still doing that though? Since the state of emergency has been lifted, is the state still issuing?
So he hasn't utilized his extension yet from
Yeah.
COVID because his permit has not expired.
Mm-hmm.
On March 7th, he'll still be good for 441 days.
Because of the COVID extension?
When he made this application, he did not know that, but I don't know that that really affects us and how we look at this. I don't know that it's a problem.
They took title March of 2020.
So the state extension should apply to them.
Seventh
The
of
emergency, whatever it is, state of emergency extension should apply to them. Like, do we know that the state of emergency COVID extension does even apply to them?
Town
They're
council said
automatic,
yeah.
they're just It's, his permit won't expire on March 7th. And I believe it's 441 days, but I don't know. At that point, that is when his permit would expire. He would have all that 441 days to
After
come
the
back to us
yeah.
again and say, can we have an extension? By right, we can make that decision. I mean, I think he made this without understanding what COVID extensions had done for this project, which, you know, it's hard to find this stuff out, so.
By the presentation that was made, it seems that they were asking for a year when they didn't know there were an additional amount of time due to COVID. A year, they felt, was sufficient.
Yep.
Now they find out that COVID does apply, and not only are they going to get a year, they're going to get a year and almost a half. So why even bother with asking for a year, because they've already got a year and a half, and they just look, it seems like they're just asking to put whipped cream on top of the cake at this point. They said they only wanted a year. They've got 441 days. They can always come back.
I mean, I think Doug is here asking for it, and I understand what you're saying.
I understand what you're saying, and you are correct that, you know, we asked for a year before the implications of the COVID order were fully understood, and we were able to determine whether or not they applied. And you are correct that because our comprehensive permit was valid when they issued the order, when they lifted the order, the state essentially said, okay, so all of those permits that were valid during that period are now extended that period of the COVID order, which is 460 days.
60,
62.
And sure, you
462
are
days.
correct that I had thought 1 year because, you know, initially I thought only 1 year because, you know, in talking with the town and you know, people involved with this project, we did not want to come in and ask this board for 3 years because it would have been perhaps excessive in your review, given all the previous. So we really squeezed ourselves to say, look, we need that 1 year at a minimum. And that's why I applied for the year. And you're right, we now have 400 days, or 400 and some odd days, which is more than the year I was asking for. So if you deny my extension, you know, we're gonna have to live with that. And you're right, I would have the right, if we do run into a problem, to come back and ask again. Quite frankly, I just don't wanna do that. I just think if the board would consider just extending us 24 months from this March, which would run just beyond the COVID extension, I know I can get this done, and I won't have to come back and ask again. And although I can appreciate the board's concern and our neighbors' concern that we're in here asking for extensions of a project that seems to have been kicking around for the better part of, you know, 10 or 15 years or more, I do have to, you know, remind you that under the regulations, the 40B regulations, it says that the zoning board may not unreasonably deny a request for extension, nor can they deny it based on the fact that other projects have been built or other things have happened in the town's 40B inventory. So I don't think that we are asking for an unreasonable extension if we look to the 2 years from March 7th. And I don't know if the board would have a reasonable justification for just denying it out of hand because it's been going on too long. I mean, that's not the way the law is written. I will say, in response to the neighbor's suggestion that, you know, this thing's been going on so long, it was reviewed under a situation back then, and it should be reviewed under today's situation. That's not unreasonable. However, the law says that the permit is told during all of that litigation that's occurred over the last 15 years. So it isn't like we've been extending every 3 years. It's just the clock hasn't started ticking on the 3 years really until just before 2019. And then that's when they came in for that first extension, and then the litigation continued until just, not all that long ago when the property was finally conveyed. So, again, I just ask you to consider, I think the suggestion made, just measure it from March 7th of '22 and go 24 months. That really just gives us a few months beyond what COVID gives us anyways. And to be honest with you, it gives me a little more cushion, so to speak, and it will prevent me from having to be back in here in 7 or 8 months and saying, hey, I need another year. I don't want to worry about that. I want to just get to getting this project revised. And given the fact that I've already told you that we will be filing a modification, the board will get to review that plan, and look at all the things. Are the modifications going to affect traffic? Are they going to affect the neighborhood? So you will get a chance to review the project under today's standards. Thank you.
Is that accurate? It won't have to be reapproved though under today's standards, but it will be.
So there's minor and major modifications, and that's just decided by mass housing. So we don't really know what they're gonna,
Is that
when they come
because
back
of
to
the
us, we'll be
40B?
able to review it to a certain point, and depending on what mass housing says, will be the amount of purview we
Who
have on
submits it to mass housing? The town, the developer?
How many days remain
Mass
as
housing is
of
an
March
it's an
10th,
authority.
2020?
But who submits it? Someone's got to
Oh,
submit it for them.
they would submit to mass housing for their 40B application.
Oh, we
Yeah,
have
it's
to
because of
submit
the
to you and mass housing simultaneously.
Oh, is that how that
For a
works?
modification, yes.
And then mass housing would tell us if it's a minor or a major
Right.
modification.
And I also think you guys have a say in that as well.
We may
You
be able to
do.
decide
You get to-
ourselves.
You get to review based on mass housing's guidelines of what constitutes major and minor. If you determine it's major, then, we're in here for the long haul.
We're obligated to.
So if
Even
it's-
if it's a
if
minor
it's-
amendment, you're still gonna wanna review it all and understand it, so.
I'm sorry,
all
so if it's a
the,
major amendment, it has to go through the entire process again?
Yes.
And if
I mean,
it's
the entire process is probably not from scratch, but
most of it?
you could
It has to
open up
be
any
approved again.
can of worms you wanted, so to speak.
But if it's a minor amendment, it does not have to be.
You're still gonna have a lot of room to have input. The things that the changes that are affected become part of what you can review. It's gonna be pretty drastic. I mean, it's gonna be a lot smaller. 60% smaller, so.
Brian, question. If they were to decide that they, come March, April, whatever, they look at this and say, well, we don't want to change it. They've got the extension, then they wouldn't have to come back in front of us if they decided they wanted to go through and build the 48 units, correct?
They would be able to do that by right, yes.
Okay, that's what I hear.
No,
They
but with
would-
our extension, if we gave them 2 years from March, whatever,
7.
March 7th, 2022 till March 7th, 2024. If they decided they no longer wanted to reduce it from 48 units to 21, they could just use that time to complete the plans as already submitted and approved, correct?
That is correct, but as I understand it, by right now, they have 462 days as of March 7th to do the same thing.
So here,
Yeah.
yeah, here's the law, the order that was issued by the governor, and it says that the new date of expiration for an approval or deadline, it will be determined for however many days remained from the date of expiration as of March 10th of the approval until the state of emergency is terminated. So they've determined 462 days. So to the extent such approval contains
He
the
gets that if he
permitting-
walks out of here right now. He gets up and
Yes.
walks out, he gets that.
Yes. So
We're
whatever
just
your
sorta doing
expiration
housekeeping at this
date,
point.
so you get 462 days from what your
If
current
we extend it for a
expired
year, he
is.
still has time after that expires That was my thought on 2 years, was just to set an end date.
But we can, it does also say, I know the question Mr. Diggs said was about why giving him this plus the 462 days. It does say that permitting agencies may extend such deadlines or waive such conditions.
So we can include that in our
So
decision.
it says, yeah, if an approval holder is not able to abide by deadlines or conditions because of the state of
We have some
emergency.
flexibility there.
So,
Anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in favor or opposition to this appeal? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Excuse me.
is there someone on Zoom?
Mr. Patel would like to speak?
Okay. I have a Zoom member that wants to speak.
Yes, this is Ashit Patel.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to hear what I have to say.
Can I just ask you for your address as well?
Address is 30 Winter Street, Lexington, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Thank you, board, for letting our attorney make an attempt to get this extended so that we can put the project in its final format and bring it upon the town to approve the reduced scope of development. It is our intention to build exactly what our attorney has identified as the scope of the development. We will not come back and ask you for the 48 units. I can give you that in full confidence. So I do understand Mr. Mendez' concern regarding, do we have the ability to come back in 2 years and still build the 48 units by right? Although we do have that opportunity, we have voluntarily reduced the scope of this project so that we can build this project and not have it tied up for any longer than it already hasn't been tied up. Part of the reason why it's been tied up is because of the large scope of the development and the dispute created between the original landowner and the entities that were involved in getting the project approved initially. We fully intend to build exactly what our attorney has identified. As to the question of the sewer capacity and the moratorium question that the neighbor has asked, I believe that the capacity calculated into the current town's calculation has already calculated for this capacity that's already in there. So for that reason, we believe that that portion of the development should be carried into its original format and the approval from before. That scope is also being reduced from obviously 48 units to 21 units. That should also help in that regard. But that initial capacity is already part of the town's calculation today. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Patel? Seeing none, is anyone else on Zoom that would like to speak?
That I can see.
Can I get a motion to close the public hearing now?
Make a motion to close?
I'll second the motion.
Is this a public hearing
All in favor?
or is it an administrative appeal?
Review.
Brian, just an administrative thing. Usually at the beginning of the meeting, you select, identify the 5 voting members, and he came on late, so you have to pick the 5.
I think he was, were you
He was
hearing
he-
the whole, did you
He
hear?
was here the whole
was here
time.
at
He was here the whole
Yeah.
time.
It just wasn't on screen. So it would be myself, Steve, Nancy, Jamie, Erin, and Glenn.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it wouldn't be Glenn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 members, yeah, without Glenn. So any thoughts on this?
I think the 2-year extension isn't that much more than what the COVID would already give them, so that gives it an end date, definite, so you don't have to worry about any further COVID stuff, so I think that's fine with me.
Fine, Peter?
Nope.
Steve, any thoughts?
I don't really have an issue with I mean, I guess I'd like to have us be very clear how we word it so that there is a specific end date. So if we said it was, the extension ends on March
7th,
2024.
Yeah, 2024, with the COVID extension notwithstanding, so it's
Maybe
clear
we
that it
could put,
doesn't get.
with current COVID extensions considered, because they could extend that, and that's just gonna make a mess.
Right.
They added to the COVID extension after this date. I mean, I just think that we should say current COVID extensions and set a final date.
Yeah, or we could just put it to
run
include, or
concurrently.
to include the consideration of the COVID
They
extensions,
run
right?
concurrently.
Or
Yeah.
concurrent.
I like the run concurrently wording, seems
Okay.
to clarify that Mr. Diggs
Yeah,
used.
Attorney can make a motion.
I'm not town council.
Well, I can't make a motion, so anyone that would like to give it a shot is welcome to it.
Go ahead, lawyer.
Alright, I'll make a motion to approve the permit extension to Riverneck Road Realty Trust until March 7th, 2024, which shall run concurrently with the COVID extension. Is that good, Steve?
Works for me.
And I will second said motion.
You have a second? All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Unanimous.
Well, thank you. I look forward to coming back in a few months and talking about the new project. I do.
Great.
I think you'll like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
That was harder than I thought it was gonna be. We now have a continued public hearing, 11 and 13 Third Street. Daniel Ruggiero, a variance application seeking relief under 195-9 relating to the conformity, specifically front setbacks and floor area, ration, and any other relief deemed necessary. The applicant would like to construct a farmer's porch and a garage.
Was this from last month, the 3D?
You folks happen to get a certified
There's a
plot
You need
plan?
the certified one?
We do, we have
I
a,
haven't seen it, but
architect
that's fine.
drawn
It's been
out.
floating around here somewhere.
Here you go.
This was the 1 footer, or the 3 inches or 6 inches, right?
I think it's 5 feet or something.
To go to a variance, a special?
He also has support letters. I know, can someone refresh my memory? This wasn't the snow, the
So it
snow
appears that this has improved your life dramatically.
Yeah.
Are we looking for a variance anymore?
No, we're still looking for a variance for the farmer's
Front
porch and
setback, but not the garage,
well, we're 24% over the FAR,
the area.
yeah. Oh, we're 4% over.
Lot size, 11,008.
I feel like that they were gonna move something.
Pass that along.
I think we all
Yeah.
We all got one.
This is the existing garage.
Did you get a look at this, Steve?
They're gonna demo this garage and put it there.
No?
Did he?
Take a look at the plans you're
Were you-
saying.
Were you able to get a look at it?
Oh, yes.
It being the plans or the actual property.
The plan that was presented.
I'm looking at the plans that are electronically presented, the thing with the stamp now from the,
Yeah, it has a stamp with the garage is now out of the setback. They were proposing, it was like 5 or 6 feet originally.
Yeah, nothing's really changed for space-wise, it's just, this makes it clearer, clarifies some,
You
Some of
thought
the
your
questions you
setback was
had.
gonna be like 5 feet, right, originally?
yeah, originally I said it appeared that the road was 28 feet from the house, even though the town, our lot line is 14 feet, because there's 6-foot grass area that
This is the one
I
we're
guess
thinking.
belongs to the town.
I thought the new garage was,
No, the new garage always met the setbacks, the one on the right. The one on the left is moving further from,
closer to the,
yeah, the existing garage is non conforming. Pro's garage is conforming.
Ryan, is this the plan you're looking at?
Yeah.
yes,
Is this a certified plot plan?
it's got a stamp?
No,
No,
there
this
was a
is an
certified plot
architect.
plan before.
Right.
And we came to the board last month and they
Did-
asked for this plan drawn up.
Doesn't this have to be on the certified plot plan?
There's one in the links.
There is?
Yeah, there was one from last month. I have one here if you need it.
Well, I see that one, but the drawing isn't on the plan. That's what I mean.
Yeah, we have to look at both.
Okay, but that's all right.
Whose stamp is that?
This was drawn from the certified plot plan.
Right.
Someone definitely changed someone.
Typically, it's on the, you'll see that same,
It's not the same person, it's not the same signature, that's for sure.
Well, the engineers we used to do our certified plot plan took so long to do it, we couldn't do it in a month. So we had to get a different architect to actually draw it with their certified plot plan.
So, yeah, we have a stamped plan from Whitman and Bigham. Okay.
Hopefully you've had a chance to go by and look at the site
I did.
as you wish to.
I did.
Good.
Wait, I'm sorry.
So we
just
did
so-
clarify the percentage before. You were asking how many percent we were over. We were trying to do the math while we were all here, and didn't seem to work out, but it's 4% over the 20 that's allowed.
The 24% is correct.
Yeah. The land coverage.
Jose is frequently asking questions, looking at.
So this one, so this,
I wrote the building
This
inspector.
doesn't-
okay.
sorry,
is
this
not-
plot plan that's in the attached agenda is the old one. It's not,
Right, the garage is not drawn in on that one.
the new proposed garage is not drawn in. So this one is irrelevant. This is the new plan that we should all be looking at, right? Yeah. Okay. The old one is irrelevant.
So that, on this one.
Because there's
this
no garage, there's no
Because the proposed,
porch.
no,
there's
because the
no-
proposals
And the
weren't, yeah,
striping
drawn
is
into
the new
it.
proposed
So this is the
garage,
new one.
which is more
Didn't have any of the
conforming in
proposals
both
on it.
directions.
Right.
Just
Well,
had
what
This
the-
one is
voting
not
on?
shown on this stamped plan.
Right.
It doesn't exist, so that's okay, but this is what they're building.
How far to the street?
So we meet all the setbacks except for the farmer's porch.
that's the thing that it looks like.
So we're only voting on the farmer's porch.
Farmer's porch and the overage, the far overage of, over
Oh,
20%.
land coverage.
Yeah, the land coverage.
So you're adding, you're moving one garage and adding another garage.
Exactly,
And you're adding a porch.
right,
Okay.
Yep.
And you're gonna, which will increase your land coverage.
right.
And then your porch is not
Up
making
to,
your
yeah,
setbacks.
over 24.
Okay. What is? I feel like we're looking at a whole lot of.
So there's a 20-foot setback allowed by right. And you were at 14.
Third is the side.
Well, we will be
Is there
14 at the
on
farmer's
the
porch.
electronic plan?
There's an existing set of stairs that already comes out that far.
Want me to send you a text and really send it this time?
Maybe. Is the,
Sure, because I don't see all the stuff you're talking about on the electronic plan.
Yeah, it's
It's
different.
not.
The electronic
It's-
plan is
it's
the old
only on the
one. It's
paper.
irrelevant.
My bad.
You need the new one.
So third is frontage, right?
Gillett is the side street.
You should have that, Steve.
Let's see if I can pull it
So
up.
what is it, 20 feet is the, what year are we? What year is this?
So to qualify for a
20.
special permit, they would have to lose 2 feet off the farmer's porch, which I think is a lot to ask of a farmer's porch.
And it's only 6 feet.
Right.
So
There's already a set of stairs that come out as far as the farmer's porch will come out. It's only a facade. We just want to go the length of the house.
Right.
There's already a roof over it too.
I was
It's
just
just,
trying to find a way
So-
around the variance if we
yeah,
could help it.
there isn't we,
Is
You're
your-
pre-existing non-conforming.
yeah.
So my question is does your, but if they have and has a roof over it,
Yep.
so then they're already being assessed for a porch. If I bet there's already a porch, a 6-foot porch on there. If that's steps and a deck with a
There
roof.
is, yeah, with a facade, yeah.
You're already being assessed by your tax property bill probably for that
Just
porch.
wanna make it the length
So
of
if
the
you're
house.
only running it parallel, they're already at the
Not
14
any
feet.
further non-conforming.
I mean, they're already at the 14 feet, so we're not increasing.
I put it up on the thing if Steve has questions.
Yeah, I see it on the screen, thank you.
I mean, all they're doing is just running it parallel. They're not even getting closer to the street,
Further,
extending where they're
Well, I
already
think their stairs
sitting.
might extend further.
nonconformity.
Yeah, the stairs right now look like they're, based on this plan I'm looking on here, is, the front of the house is 14 feet from the, right? Am I reading that right?
No, the front of the stairs is 14 feet.
Yeah, it's showing it differently here
Right
on this
now.
plan.
What we'd approve would be 14 feet.
Right.
He's suggesting the stairs now are similar.
Right.
And I think typically that you get a walk on the stairs and like bulkheads, soffit overhangs and all that. So that's probably not included in your setbacks, but it really, it's immaterial. I mean, it's where you want to go, not where you are. The front setback is already non-conforming by 2 or
Okay,
3
okay.
feet.
This one is, okay. Thanks,
Yeah,
okay.
it's hard to see that. It's, there's
Yeah.
a small tooth.
Well, and I
mark
guess
there.
something's changed in this, so, okay, thank you.
All right, well, are there any questions from the board at this time?
Wow, it's pretty straightforward.
I'm going to ask you to sit down, and we're going to open it up to the audience, see if there's any
Thank you.
questions or concerns from the audience regarding this application? Seeing none, are there any on Zoom?
Doesn't appear to be.
Do we have any further questions of the applicant?
If you want to read the letters from the neighbors, support letters.
Oh, well, let's read those in. We have other letters as well.
We have comments as well.
Two big garage.
So we have a letter from the town, the engineer, with notes. Site plan with a professional land surveyor stamp is required. That has been provided. Erosion control devices must retain the sediment on site. These must be installed prior to any work or demolition. 3, the proposed addition may be over the existing sewer service. Applicant must contact the DPW Sewer Division to coordinate any necessary permits or actions to preserve or alter the sewer service. 4, the driveway configuration is changing. Contact the DPW Highway Division to determine if any road opening permit is needed. That is the end of the comments for engineering. The Chelmsford Fire Department. Dear members of the board, regarding 1113 3rd Street, this office has reviewed the proposal for an addition to 1113 3rd Street and finds the following. The entire building is existing and new construction shall be equipped with life safety systems as required by 780 CMR 51, standard for new construction at the time of application for a building permit. The home shall have hardwired, interconnected smoke, carbon monoxide, and heat detectors in all required locations. The applicant shall upload a plan showing all life safety devices to their building permit application. The application shall be made to the Town of Chelmsford E-911 Committee for addresses through its coordinator, Town Clerk Tricia Druez. This office would approve of this addition with these conditions. I ask that the board make this letter part of their approval process. Respectfully submitted, Danielle Kostafis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department. Another letter from the Board of Health with no comments. That's it for my letters for the town. I have a letter dated 1/14/2022. I am the neighbor of 11 and 13 3rd Street. I will be happy to offer my support for my neighbors Dan Ruggiero and Larissa Ruggiero on behalf of their request of approval of their variance. The updates to their home will bring up the value of our neighborhood as a whole. Susan M. Diamore, 5 Gilwood Ave, Chelmsford, I'm assuming. I'd like to express support of my neighbor Dan Ruggiero and Larissa Ruggiero. I'm aware of the variant request, and I see no reason why it should not be approved. Everything else Dan Ruggiero has done in the neighborhood adds a huge value to the rest of the neighborhood. Dorothy Hanover and Kevin Francone, 1 and 3 York Ave, Chelmsford. Another letter from Brian Bethune of 8 Gilwood Avenue, Chelmsford. The intention of the Chelmsford Planning and Zoning Department. I am a neighbor of Dan Ruggiero and Larissa Ruggiero. I support their variant request seeking relief from the floor area ratio for the construction, as well as any other reliefs deemed necessary. Everything else Dan Ruggiero has done in this neighborhood has only made it better. Yours sincerely, Brian Bethune. It wasn't signed. Maybe it was an email. And those are the letters I have. Seeing no other concerns or comments?
I did have one, just, why 2 garages?
Two family.
There we go. See? Sometimes pictures are worth 1,000 words. All right, thank you.
11 and 13.
I thought that seemed odd, but I was like, that's an odd, but it.
Looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor? And the
Aye.
voters again will be myself, Steve, Aaron, Jamie, Nancy. Okay.
So I'll ask the question for my usual sticking point. What's the hardship for this variance?
I think last time we said it was a corner lot, right?
It is a corner lot.
I think that's what our,
Can I ask how big is a typical garage? Does 24 by 24 seem big?
That's typical.
Or is that typical, 24 by 24?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a single car? That's a
It's
2-car.
two.
A two-car garage, yeah.
Jose, are you on Zoom?
I think, yeah, that's an average 2-car.
I guess we have a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and we're extending that non-conformity by 6 feet, but that doesn't get us any break on the variance, right? That doesn't allow that to be a special permit, because it's pre-existing non-conforming.
Yeah, that's what I think the bylaw says.
Okay.
I mean, I guess for me personally, I don't think just saying it's a corner lot, that doesn't seem like a variance, like anyone can come in and go, well, I have a corner lot, so I have a hardship.
They have an easement.
Yeah, it's not like
I
a
mean,
two frontage
Well, they have an easement.
Yeah,
situation,
it's not like there's an
right?
effect of the corner lot that's
Yeah, like the
creating
corner
a
lot
problem.
doesn't have kind of much of an effect on the
maybe that
property.
it's a two-family too.
But they also have an easement, so they lose part of their.
Their frontage.
Well, we're not so much.
Oh,
But-
where's that? No, this is the next case. Go Freeman Road. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. It's gonna confuse you.
No, I'm already confused.
I did the same
Where's
thing. When I pulled it
this?
out, I was looking at it and I was why do I have two? No, that's the next one.
Oh God, please help me.
I'm not overly offended by it. I did go by the house. I think the actual layout is somewhat deceptive because their property line is much closer to their house than the edge of the lawn drive, or the roadway is. It is, this is depicted 22 feet from there.
How is it a corner?
I know that must be like
there's-
like something they set us up for a sidewalk or something, right? By
It's-
by the town.
Yeah, I mean,
When
this
they
is
laid the
old.
lots or
Do you
something.
know when your house was built?
Isn't this theirs?
So it predates zoning.
Oh my.
If you go from edge of pavement, they're 22 feet away with the farmer's porch, even though their property line does not allow for that. They would be in compliance, going from the edge of roadway.
Right.
It's difficult to say no to, honestly, but I do understand
So is this calculated?
Steve's concern with it being a variance and not a true hardship. I don't know, it's certainly a minimally invasive hardship, I would say, because,
I feel like I'm less concerned about the porch than I am about the area. This 16 to 24% lot
But
coverage
it's still
is a
the lot
big,
coverage, where it doesn't impact, it still doesn't change this, which is where they're over.
yeah, you're only adding one garage.
Over what we can cover.
Yeah.
4%. I mean, that's the other part, is the lot
They're adding the
coverage.
garage, but isn't the house also getting longer
Yeah.
in the back?
correct.
Yeah, the kitchens. I mean, because there's two issues. It's not just the frontage, it's not just it's the lot coverage are over by
Yeah, the
4%,
coverage.
so.
The combination makes it kind of a,
It fills a lot pretty
Vigorous.
dramatically.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's not much question about that.
I
But
love
it is
it.
a very, I don't know if you got to see it, it's a very tight neighborhood.
I love a farmer's
This is an
porch.
11,800
Too, but I don't, yeah, I'm
square foot
having
lot,
trouble
so it's-
finding,
A hardship.
I'm having trouble finding a hardship.
sucks
It's
because it's already
there's
there.
small lots throughout the neighborhood.
I mean,
It's,
what's the squares on
Are
this?
all the neighbors, did we get letters from all the
11.
neighbors?
We got letters from three,
Across the street, so it's my house, we own it, and then he lives across the street. So,
And you support it?
and then all the,
I
and
take
all
it.
down Gilwood.
the houses I would be concerned about, honestly, is across the street and
And
the
on either
Gilwood
side.
Avenue house was,
Yeah, they're really close there. Gilwood are very.
But the
So what about
the problem is
behind
though,
the
as a variance, we have to determine a hardship. We're required to determine a hardship by law. We have, I mean, that's the requirement to authorize a variance. I mean, that's just, we're dictated to do so. It's not a matter of, does that make sense? It's not like we don't not want to or do want to, it's just, we're dictated according to what we're following. If it's a variance, there's certain criteria that has to be met, unfortunately.
which is lot shape, topography, and soil conditions.
Yeah,
It's not topography or soil.
no. I mean, you have a pretty flat square
Lot shape is
lot. It's pretty.
So I'm sorry,
and you're
can we
well
just, so we have a
positioned.
letter from 5 Gilwood
Yes, we do.
and from 7 Third Street?
I forget what the other addresses were.
Two on Gilwood, Frank Ford's
Oh.
on the corner of Third and,
3rd and York. So that's number 7 Third Street, right? And we have a letter from them also?
Frank Ford.
We have a letter from
4%.
8 Gilwood,
I mean, it's literally cutting.
1 and 3 York, and
cutting the
5
project
Gilwood.
in half.
So we have the 2 Gilwood
That's a lot.
that are in support. But we don't have York Ave, number 4 York Ave, or number 7 Third Street? We
No.
don't have letters from them,
Seven
right?
Third Street, like I said, there's no one living
Sale just sold.
So what's 24? Do you have a,
What's what?
oh, they added 40. I just wanted to see. Are we sure they're doing this right?
So they're adding 4 feet here.
It seemed that if the farmer's porch was removed, we would probably get under that 24%, and we could give you a special permit for the rest of the construction. I don't know if that's palatable, but it would seem to solve all your problems.
We could give a special permit because it's only area? It would only
They
be
wouldn't have any
area.
dimensional, they wouldn't need dimensional relief.
Oh, because that would bring the coverage under it, yeah, I see.
It would just be the area, but I think the area,
It would be under,
what would that be?
I mean, it's half. They would have to cut it by half.
The porch is 6 by 21.
41?
41.
41,
I believe we're still over with the farmers, without the farmers.
yeah.
Was it a
But
lot?
we're allowed a percentage. They're over by 4, the project added 8, they'd have to cut their addition
It'd
by
still be
half.
over by 2.
Right, they would have to take 500 feet out of it to get to,
I mean, they'd literally have to cut the project in half. Let's see what we can do. We'll figure out something.
I just wanna raise my kids to go across the street to Papa's, that's all.
And there's no difference with it being a two-family?
Well, it's an RC zoning, and the RC zoning is listed right next to the plan there,
Not for variance.
showing an area of,
Reduction of not more than 20%.
20%,
Front,
width of
side, or rear
125.
dimension, and yard
depth of
dimensionals.
125. Front setback is 20 feet, they would make that. They're allowed 20% of lot area, right?
So does that 20% include, does it, the 20% reduction in, this is dimensional, does that include coverage as well? Front, side, rear, I guess not. Attached. Oh, and these are all attached,
I
right?
think I'm getting it that you're 10 feet under.
10 feet under for what?
The area. So right now, we have 1448 for the building. Plus, if we remove the porch, 1152. It's 2,600 square feet. If he has 11,802 square feet times .20 is 2,360.
Right.
And 11,802.
You're 486 over, based on the numbers the architect put together here.
486 square feet over the 20%.
Right.
11,802 times.
I've got a question on the 14-foot measurement for the front of the house.
Mm-hmm.
In the last plans, the plans that are online, it went 14 feet from the property line to the front of the house, not measuring to the steps, but to the actual building, it appears. And now with the current plans, we're adding some number of feet to the front of the house for this farmer's porch.
6 feet.
And it seems to measure 14 feet to the edge of the farmer's porch.
Yeah, it still reads 14.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about earlier. But that plan is not, this is the plan that's right.
So the 14 feet from that previous stamp thing was just wrong.
It looks like that 14 feet was from the house to the edge of the street and not the actual property line
That makes sense.
That wouldn't make sense.
in the old one.
I think we need
Oh,
a
yeah, no, backwards.
civil engineer's stamp.
That's what I was asking before,
that's what
because
we
this
need.
is an architect stamp.
I think we need, yeah, that's an architectural stamp, Bethany K. But we need Whitman and
I see
Bingham
what
to
Steven's
give
saying, though. Do
us.
you see what he's saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because there is a discrepancy. Steve's right, there's a discrepancy
6
between the,
feet.
yeah.
Yeah.
It sure doesn't look like it on the picture.
We're gonna have an issue getting that. They took months to get those plans.
I think we really need to see a stamp on the plan, because we do have a significant discrepancy. So if you can talk to Brian and see if you can get, you know, just, all he needs to do really is locate the new garage, the kitchen, and the relocation of the second garage on the existing plan. So we can figure out how many feet you actually are from the roadway.
Well, the porch is the issue.
Was there a discrepancy in those numbers too?
No, the existing house, it shows it on the certified plot plan that was originally given to us. It shows that the house is at 14 feet, right?
From the corner of the house.
From the front of the house to the street. And then on the architectural drawing, it shows it at 20 feet from, based on if you're at, you're looking at 14 feet to the farmer's porch, and the farmer's porch is 6 feet, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called out on the plan at 6.
Yeah. So you're looking at a 20-foot from the edge of the street, if that's where the property line is, or excuse me, from the property line.
Which still wouldn't even match the 20 feet measurement that they
No.
have with this dotted line in between, which I'm not even sure what this dotted line, the setback line.
It says the
20
property
feet.
line, right?
But you see the dotted line inside?
About here though, so this is the.
Oh, yeah.
See that
Right.
hash mark?
But see this 20 feet
Okay.
mark, it goes even past the front of the house.
But that's a pre-existing non-conforming.
Yeah.
Right.
This is just
But if it's
14
14
from the house to
feet,
the property line.
right.
This
They're
is-
saying
this
Yeah.
should be- And the farmer's porch is 6, so it's 14 plus 6, so
would have
it's
been 20 feet, which should be 20, but they're saying 20 feet is back here.
Right.
So it's totally wrong.
Yeah, they don't match.
Yeah, but they're not measuring to the stairs, they're measuring to the, if you look at this plot that they gave us last
They
time,
didn't pick the stairs.
Yeah,
They-
this-
The
They-
house is pre-existing non-conforming.
yeah, but
So
the
that's
measurement,
boundary.
the measurement they're giving us, they're off by at least 6 feet. I mean, I would give it even another foot based on this. I mean, because if we're here at 14, and then the farmer's porch should be 6, so this should be 20, right? This should be 20
what you're saying.
realistically, but they're saying this is
It's
20.
Right.
So where's this measurement?
Well, so this 14 should be 8.
Right.
Could be 8.
Could be
be
8, who knows?
If this is, yeah.
Because they're
If
saying.
I think it's gonna be best if you do
If
get
this
a
is 14,
certified plot plan.
and this
This
is
is
6,
8. Well,
this is 20,
yeah.
but they're saying this is 20.
Don't do the farmer's
So
porch.
this is totally missing, because they're saying this is 20.
The way I understand it is you're supposed to have a certified plot plan with what you're proposing on that plan, right?
agree.
This
I
is an
think that's what we
architectural
asked them to get
drawing,
us for the
right?
last one.
So you have to go to,
Plot plan, when we were here last month, we said, come back with a plan from an architect's stance of the drawing. And that's what we did.
Can the
An
architect,
architect's not a civil engineer.
can the architect put this over the over the plot plan that they already had?
Yes.
The surveyor
They
plan?
could overlay it.
So can the architect can overlay the survey that they already have? So they need to go back to their architect and say, no, you need to put this over the surveyor's plan.
but still it has to be a
Still
stamped,
need a
certified
plan
civil engineers.
for the proposal,
But this
which you're gonna have to
is-
get an as-built for anyways.
Well, this is,
after
that's what they
built.
gave us last time, right? That's what this is,
Right.
right? So the architect can essentially overlay
But
this.
if this.
I don't wanna say one way or the
If
other,
we're gonna go
'cause
by this, and then we're adding the farmer's porch, it's
Then they're looking at
12.
8 feet. Then
8
they're
feet
8
to
feet
the,
back.
then
yeah.
they're 8 feet from their,
8 feet from the
Yeah,
front line.
we're not looking for 14 feet, we're looking for 8 feet, yeah.
Farmer's porch, are there any discrepancies with the 4% over?
Well, the lot line's right. Again, are all these lines on this drawing
You
right?
have to go off of the.
We have to go off
we have to go to
this.
certified
I think
plan.
they're gonna have to have an engineer locate the proposed addition on the certified plan.
Well, so you're saying no farmer's porch?
Is it
You
right
wanna
for
know your
them
area
to
is?
not get approved?
Okay.
Well, I think we would continue it at this
I
point.
know, but is
Well-
it worth it for them to even get a plan if we're not gonna find a
If they don't-
hardship for a variance anyway?
Yeah, I don't want to have them run around
Yeah.
if,
Can we
if that
look,
doesn't matter.
how much off are they without the porch? Get rid
If
of
we-
the porch, how much area coverage are we?
I think they're still
Yeah, if we-
over.
How much over are we?
I
Because
think
then we
they're
could
looking at
essentially approve their
186
plan and they
feet.
could come back later for the porch if they want.
What's the percentage one?
That would be a separate thing.
So they're still 2% over?
There, yeah, yes.
Yeah, it'd be
So you're still looking at 2% over without the porch? Roughly, about 480 feet,
Right,
square
that's
feet.
the,
Yeah.
the other variance we're here for is the, over the percentage of the land we can cover.
can't get a special permit for land coverage, can you? There isn't a special permit for land coverage, is there?
No, they'd still need a variance.
Okay. So we go back to the 22% variant, can we find a variance just for the land coverage with no porch? Get rid of the
And it
porch.
sounds like people.
They still need a hardship.
think that-
Yeah,
There's no
that's-
hardship.
yeah.
So is there point to even getting the new
Yeah.
plan if there's no
Yeah.
hardship?
Yeah.
Jose, if they did remove the farmer's porch, can we give a special permit for area if they got that down in amount?
Like, is there a percentage we're allowed? Is it, does it fall in 20%?
I don't know an area, I know dimensionally, we can do 5%. I don't know an area.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, what was your question again?
Would they be, if they did not increase their area,
If they did, what's the, can we do a
if
special
they
permit?
increased it by less than 5%, would it be a special permit?
Aren't they less than 5% now? I thought they were 4%.
At this size, I think they have issues. I'm just trying to understand that, whether we can give them another 5% as a special permit as we can with the dimensional requirements. So if you go for a variance, you need a variance. If you are 5% less than what you need, you can get a special permit on dimensional requirements. But I don't know if that applies to area.
Let's see.
Sorry, Jose, I think I jumped in on your response, so if you can.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think that only will decrease the lot coverage. But I think if I will go to the book and interpret the bylaws, I think they will still fall under a variance, not a special permit.
And if they couldn't get to, what is 10% of 11,802?
So there's no way to get a special permit for increasing lot coverage? Jose, sir?
So I don't think he's got to show hardship for the special permit. And unfortunately, based on my interpretation with the frontage and the side, I will still have to kind of stand on the same interpretation of a variance. Even though the proposed work that he's proposing, the applicant, will be more conforming and it's not going to present any adverse situation to the abutters, to the neighbors.
So if someone had an FAR of 21%, that's still a variance because they're over the 20%, correct?
That will be my interpretation, yes.
Okay, thank you.
No
So
problem.
this is Article 4, 195-9, B, the reductions to the dimensional requirements for purposes of single and two-family dwellings. The zoning board of appeals may issue a special permit for the reduction of not more than 20% from the front, side, and rear dimensional requirements within the table of dimensional requirements. If the zoning board of appeals finds that the reduction meets the following criteria. The lot or structure may not be developed without a reduction in the dimensional requirements. Adjacent properties would not be adversely impacted, which we can make that argument because the neighbors are on board. The reduced dimensions would not be detrimental to the public good and would not substantially deviate from the intent or purpose of this zoning bylaw. Any lot reduced under this section may not be further reduced or subdivided. So I think we can grant a special permit for the reduction of not more than 20% from the front, side, and rear dimensional requirements. Well, the 20% number on an 11,802 square foot lot is 3,604 square feet. You're adding 1,448 and 1,152 without the farmer's porch, which is 2,600 feet, which would be well less than the 20%. I don't quite understand where
That
these
was
numbers are coming
For
from.
floor, I thought those were for setbacks, not for area, the 20%. Isn't that what you read?
We meet all the setbacks, except for the farmer's porch.
Well, the front of the house, according to your architect, does not meet the setbacks, or the stamped plan, right? The stamped plan says it's 14 feet.
Yeah,
The
we can't-
architect's plan says that it's 20 feet.
I don't think we can even consider the farmer's porch with the plans we have.
But this is simply reductions to the dimensional requirements. For purposes of single and two-family dwellings, the zoning board of appeals may issue a special permit for the reduction of not more than 20% from front, side, and rear dimensional requirements within the table of dimensional requirements.
Yeah, front, side, and rear, doesn't,
So it's not
say
area.
not
Yeah,
area.
does that consider area? No.
There's no mention of area.
Occupations. I thought that might help with this approach, but I guess I was.
Yeah, no, I thought we were on the right track with that, too.
So here's, okay,
So
look at
can I
this.
just, is it, I hate to, I hate to ask these people to run around more, but is it worth us going through this if we don't trust the integrity of this plan?
No.
And it's not overlaying
No, I think Peter's probably got a very
the
good point.
stamp?
I hate to send you away again, but I think you really need to have an engineer give us a stamped plan for the proposed changes. And maybe he can trim here and there. I don't know what all of this entails, whether he can shrink a little bit of it and get to that magic 20%. It would be, but we're working from two different plans.
4%, and we meet every setback that there is. I don't understand.
We don't even know that, really. You don't have anything located on the
Have an
plan.
engineered plan with the setbacks on it.
We just paid an architect to have
I
it all.
gotta be honest, we vote, it's not gonna go well, so you
Who asked
can,
for the last meeting?
no, you really didn't, no, you didn't. You have an architect stamp, but you don't have a civil engineer stamp, which is what you do have on this.
Architect one last time we were here. And Jose was off.
You can listen to the tape, I don't think I used the word architect, so you can check and see, it's all on tape. But if we vote now, I don't think it's gonna go well, so you might wanna think about whether you wanna do this or not.
Yeah, I know what I want to do. I'll be back. Thank you.
So here is.
I was gonna
so
suggest
Russ-
they go back to their architect and tell their
Here,
architect.
so
don't
look,
know.
I
Yeah, to
write
continue or
non-conforming
vote. It's,
residence extend, extensions, alters, variances
But if
by
you vote
right,
against it, doesn't
insufficient
matter what they
lots,
do at that point, right, does it?
as long as it
I don't know what
complies.
he can do, I don't know what that meant, I have no idea, but.
I mean, I guess I'm stuck on whether they have a stamp plan or not. If they're still looking for some sort of a variance,
Appeals of planning board.
Correct.
if there's no hardship, is it in their best interest to go and spend more money with an architect if we're not finding something that can approve a variance of any sort anyway?
I mean, I don't think they need to spend more money with an architect. I think their architect screwed up,
Yeah.
to be completely honest. And they should go back to their
You
architect
need
and
to
say, no, you
vote on
need to look at the
something
city's
with
plan
set
and fix
plans
this.
from a
and
civil
then-
engineer. You
Yeah, we
can't
can't-
vote on an
yeah.
architect's drawing.
We can't vote if we have two conflicting
Right.
things, so it's kind
It
of.
has to
As
be
upset
put
as they
on
are,
the
it's
lot.
unfortunate, but they didn't get us what we needed, whatever the
And
reason.
if they're gonna, then.
I'm gonna suggest we continue this for a month and let them try to focus on what would solve the problem. I think they can shrink things in such a way to get to the 20%, and then the variance would not be required, as well as lose the farmer's porch, but they can, you know, do what they want. I think we can give them the courtesy of extending this for 30 days.
Safer.
But whatever motion is made, we'll vote on.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
Second, Aaron, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So to the March 3rd.
That's just to close it.
That closes it, but we can continue, the public hearing is closed. So if we're gonna have more
Okay, so
testimony, we'll
I'll make
have
a
to reopen
motion
it.
to continue 11 and 13 3rd Street to March 3rd, 2022.
I'll second the motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, that's just fine, but.
I think we could have.
These are just flying by tonight.
Yeah, but based on what? That's the problem. You still need.
If we
actual
just
plan.
do-
Public hearing,
If we just do lot
16
coverage
Freeman
size
Road, Jeffrey Hensel.
with no
Variance
farmer's porch,
application for relief from 195-9 pertaining to the required setbacks
gonna change
and
the-
any other relief deemed necessary.
the site, it's not gonna change the size of the
Also,
buildings.
ID
And the size of the lot.
113-427-14 in the RB district. The applicant would like to build a one-car garage to the right side of his home, which will further encroach on the setback requirement.
We could have done it. Right here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Drove by your house today.
I'm sorry?
I drove by your house today.
Oh, good.
A lot of room on the other side there. It's a challenge. I understand your kitchen must be on that side and the bedrooms are on the left. It was just, it's really tight. And as you
It's,
know, we're
there is-
struggling with,
There's 47 feet on the other side from the house to the property line. However, the house is aligned on the right, as you see, with the doors and the driveway aligned on the right. It's simply not possible to put a garage on the left side. That, along with the alignment of the house on the plot, it's actually not in the center of the plot, it's more on the right. So that further complicates the matter. And the plot is actually, the lines run diagonal, so it's actually wider at the far end than it is at the front. So if the house was at the far end, I probably wouldn't have an issue.
yeah, this is the garage.
Did he say his name and address? Did he
We're
say
we're
his
struggling
name?
with the very same conversation we had.
Chairman, did he introduce himself and his
Oh,
address?
I'm sorry, no, sir. Will you ask your name and address for the record?
Sure, my name is Jeffrey Hansel. I live at 16 Freeman Road, Chelmsford.
And what do you, did he explain what he's doing? I didn't hear.
He's putting this garage, 16 by 37 feet long, at the front of the corner. It'll be 6.8 feet away from the property line. At the rear corner, it will be 5.0 feet away from the property line.
It's here. If you wanna look.
Oh, you already
It's
have
extending on the
asphalt
side.
there. It's already a driveway.
Yeah, so see in the plan, this is the driveway, it looks like. So they'll still have like, the garage will be over here, and they'll just extend the driveway out. I guess I'm like,
Do we have letters from this neighbor?
We do. To the Board of Appeals, I am in a butter to Jeffrey and Julie Hansel at 16 Freeman Road. They have shared their plan with me to add a garage to the house. I have no issues with the plan. I am writing this letter in support of their requested variance, and I believe the proposal will not have a negative impact on the area, and the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw will be met.
Single car.
Thank you for your time. Henry
Chuk.
Chisholm?
Chuk. He's the next door neighbor.
Okay, and that is 18 Freeman Road. That would be the most affected abutter, aligned to the garage. I'm in a butter
That's the
to,
house on the right?
yes, the house on the right, number 18. Right where, right past where it says proposed garage would be the 18. And a butter to Jeff and Julie Hansel at 16 Freeman Road. They've shared their plan with me to add a garage to the house, and I have no issues with the plan. I'm writing this letter in support of the requested variance. I believe the proposal will not have a negative impact on the area, and the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw will be met. Thank you for your time. Mike Havender, 7 Noble Drive.
where's 7 Noble Drive?
I believe it's the
Diagonally behind us.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
Board of Appeals.
It's like, I don't see.
Why can't they put the garage here?
This is from yourself. Jeff, you've written a letter? I'll read it in. The Board of Appeals, in writing this letter to certifying that I've spoken to my neighbors about the proposed garage project. I've shared my project plans and the sketch along with the need for a setback variance. All my neighbors expressed their support. In addition to speaking to my neighbors, I have gone over the project in great detail with my immediate neighbors at 18 Freeman Road, right side next to where the proposed garage will go, 14 Freeman Road, left side of my house, and 15 Freeman Road across the street. All of whom are not only supportive of the project, but believe the additional garage will have a positive impact on the street and the neighborhood. None of my neighbors have any concerns about the setback variance, including the neighbors at 18 Freeman Road, whose property is on the side of the proposed garage. Being a good neighbor is important to us, and maintaining the beauty and essential character of the neighborhood is a primary concern to us. We have made sure that all of our neighbors who have a vested interest in our property and our proposed project, as much as we do, are completely comfortable with this plan before we decide to move forward with a variance request. I am happy to certify that my neighbors are fully on board and believe that our proposed garage project and variance request will not have a negative impact on the area, and the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw will be met. Respectfully submitted, Jeffrey Hansel. That is letters from the neighbors. I have department comments here. The building department has the letter of denial, which I'll read in. Mr. Hansel, I regret to inform you, as per the CPP you provided to add a single-car garage, you would need a variance to proceed with the project. The side specs requirements of your project is 25 feet for your home, which you do not meet. You can appeal this decision to the BOA within 30 days of this notice. I look forward to assisting you during this process. Thank you, Jose Negron, Building Commissioner. I have a letter from engineering. Freeman Road will be paved in the spring of 2022. No cuts into new pavement will be permitted for 5 years. The driveway will be expanding. It must be done prior to the roadway pavement. Erosion control devices must retain the sediment on site. These must also be installed prior to any work or demolition. That's it for engineering. Chelmsford Fire Department Prevention Office. For 16 Freeman Road, this office has reviewed the proposed addition at 16 Freeman Road and finds the following. As part of this project, a heat detector shall be installed in each garage bay. There must also be a combination smoke carbon monoxide detector present that is interconnected with the heat detectors within 20 feet of a door to the garage. All installed devices shall be hardwired by the interconnected with the existing home's fire protection. All smoke detectors and other life safety devices shall be marked on the plan prior to submission for a building permit. The department would approve this plan with these conditions. I ask the board to make this letter part of their approval process. Respectfully, Danielle Kostafis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department. I have a letter from the Board of Health with no concerns. Water has no comments on 16 Freeman. The Police Department has no concerns. Lieutenant Colin Spence, who's now Deputy Chief Colin Spence, so congratulations to Colin. And this is to Freeman as well. So those are the letters I have. What we're stumbling over is we need a hardship to give you a variance. It has to pertain to lot shape, topography, or what's the third one there?
Well, I actually did detail that in my letter. I think the hardship primarily is from the placement of the house on the lot, so in addition to the lot shape, as well as the alignment of the existing driveway and doors of the house.
So I think we had one in the past where it was a similar situation. The house was over to the right of the lot, and we established that the reason the house was placed there was because of
Ledge, I remember
because of
that.
ledge under the
Yep.
ground. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if people have any way of determining if there's ledge.
Well, they knew
or
that
if
because
we
they
can
had
kind
built, they had built a previous project, and they knew that because they had experienced
Yeah.
it from a
I think you
previous
could see it in the
project.
photos as well.
Right, we saw ledge.
Yeah.
You're on a beach, aren't you?
Excuse me?
Dug a hole in your yard, it's a beach.
I haven't dug that deep.
Familiar with the area, it's pretty sandy over there.
Yeah.
I don't
But yeah,
know,
the house
if you
being
do have
kind of-
ledge, that would be a huge help, actually.
Or can we make an assumption that based on like the placement of houses, like why are people building houses over to the right of the lots anyways? Why
Right,
isn't
why
it
did that happen?
perfectly
It's
placed
an
in the
interesting
middle,
question.
right? You know?
Why did that happen?
Like when we see these houses that are all the way over to the right, like can we
Right.
assume that there's a reason that it was built like that and that's why? I don't know. It just
Well, I do believe that placement of the house on the lot is considered a hardship, as well as the alignment of the plot itself, which, if you look at the plot, the lines, that does create an unusual hardship. And I would add to that, that if I was to try to reconfigure things, which is impossible, but if I was try to reconfigure it, that would also add as an additional hardship.
a financial hardship, which is the third hardship that you were looking for.
Well, safety is now one as well.
And I did detail the 3 hardships in my letter. I did my homework.
I appreciate it.
I realize that it's the request is outside what the board is typically comfortable with, but I also realize that it's unique to the property. And we do have the blessing from our neighbors, so.
It's wide open.
Yeah. Oh, there's
Well,
pictures.
just, I know, and I'm just neighbor and the back. And this is a mudroom area that you have right off to this, that you're coming off of?
Yes.
I mean, I guess, seeing that in this letter, you brought it up, what's the matter with the freestanding garage to the left? Maybe not ideal, but I don't know.
Or
You have to pave a
making,
new driveway to go to it?
or
Well, we would have to
making a drive and putting your garage behind this and then turning into the garage, so it's,
So behind that is a sunroom, and you can't really see that in the picture, but
Yeah,
behind
you can
the,
see it on the plan to your,
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
your left.
behind the sunroom, I think you would get too close to the brook.
you have a water element on your?
Well, the water would be part of the soil condition, but a freestanding garage to the left would appear to be feasible on that, you know,
47.
25-foot setback on the side and 16 is 41 feet.
And how far away you have to be?
You'd have to, yeah, I
Have
think you'd
to
have
be 10
another
feet from the house.
driveway.
Yeah, we
You'd
would have to
replace.
install
You'd have
another
to
driveway on the left side of the
I think
house.
get rid of that driveway.
financial is not
And
considered a
the
hardship.
doors are on the right
It
side
is,
of the
isn't it?
house.
Isn't it in the?
Yeah, no,
it's on the
I-
itself.
Yeah. Well, you
I
drove by.
appreciate your
so you-
problem. What I also appreciate is that we have to have a hardship
No.
to grant the variance. It's not like an option, you know? It's not-
No, I understand that.
And to consider lot placement, or house placement on the lot is,
Are other homes in this area, homes located on the lot similar to this? They're over to one side or they're over the other side?
I haven't looked at a locus of the whole
Like there
area.
was, like if they're all in the middle, but this one oddball is over on the side, it would suggest there is something on the left side that they couldn't do it.
Very possibly. And it could easily be, and I don't know, I'm not even gonna guess, but this house could have been built and then they split a lot off next to it. And they stole all they could to get it. I just don't know. You know, you could do the history, I'm sure.
Yeah, there could be a reason. I can't.
There's no old timers in the area who might know something?
I don't know that there's anyone there that was there when the house was built.
Financials a hardship.
You mentioned there's a
I'm trying to
brook
look
in
him
that
up right
area.
now.
Could the brook flow somewhere over on the left?
Here we go, literally enforcement of
Not at all.
provisions
Just straight in the
of law,
back.
substantial hardship,
Is this yours?
Oh, yeah.
financial or otherwise. Here we go.
Hang on, everything's pretty.
It's financial, it has to relate
in the
to
satellite
the
view,
lot
if you want to-
To permit granting authority.
Topography.
Sounds like in the middle.
Soil conditions.
and lot shape.
That one's to the right of the line. It's hard to say, I mean,
Right, right.
without looking at
Right,
the.
you don't exactly will.
Yeah, go back to the layers
With
sometimes.
such
It'll show
permit
you.
granting authority.
Or a literal enforcement of the provisions.
This is the house
Authority
we're looking at,
specifically finds that
surrounding,
owing
there.
to circumstances
Yeah.
relating to the soil conditions, shape,
This one's
or
to that
topography
side.
of such land or
Middle,
structures,
middle.
and especially
Middle, right?
affecting such land or
then this one
structures,
here.
but not
So it's
affecting
it's
generally
totally
the
lot
zoning
shaped.
district in which it is
It's
located.
like they're generally in the middle.
A literal enforcement of the provision or bylaw would involve substantial hardship.
Financially or
The-
Financial
the,
to the
uh,
petitioner.
otherwise to the petitioner.
And
I
that
think
desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good.
Yeah, I mean, I've read through that at great detail, and I think my understanding of that is that, point one is that it does create an unusual hardship as well as a financial hardship if we're to try to realign things. Point two would be that the alignment of the house on the plot, which we just discussed, as well as the plot line itself, which, as I mentioned, is wider at the far end. And then the third point that you just brought up would be that the variance could be granted without any detriment to the public good, while not nullifying the intent of the purpose of the variance and the bylaws. So in other words, it's not going to harm anyone, and you still have the standing, and you still have the laws in place to enforce.
I mean, honestly, if your neighbor chose, which may not be the neighbor that you have now, to put up a fence on his property line, you wouldn't even be in compliance with the fire department's 10-foot rule. You'd only have 5 foot, if he chose to put a fence on his property line. Not this neighbor, not, it's not, but to be considered.
Is there a fence there? It looks like there is a fence there.
There is a fence there.
There is a fence
There's
there.
a fence there.
Actually, it's funny that you just,
Fire, no, he didn't mention it in his letter, but
there is a fence there.
for firefighting purposes, they want 10 feet between any two structures.
And a fence is a structure? So do we need a
Can't get
letter from the,
around it, that's the issue.
so would we need a letter from the fire department?
No, I don't
They don't
think,
have
I
any
mean, I'm
concerns.
just trying to, 5 feet is, like, for me to Jamie is 5 feet, it's not far.
Could he also reduce the width of the garage?
No, it's only
He's at 16, so he could reduce it.
But
mean,
if you
it's-
got 5
it's a-
feet out of
it's a
that.
narrow
If you got
garage.
5 feet out of that, you already had 5, you'd be at the fire.
So he went to
10 feet.
11 feet wide garage. He'd have 10 feet, he'd still be 15 feet short of his required setback.
Would it meet the fire code?
It would meet the fire code, yes, sir. 5 more feet would meet that.
Well, I don't think that would quite be wide enough. If we went,
No, I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with 5 feet, honestly, and I'm just trying to,
If he
it's
went
hard,
out,
it's really tight.
I
if he
know,
went out
it is.
and dug a big hole on the left and hit a rock, would
Yeah.
that make a difference?
I know, that's how do you
Well, that
prove
would
the
become
topography?
soil
It's really
conditions.
like.
It's cheap.
Do we need a picture of the rock? I mean, that's the
well,
thing, like, how do we,
It's,
Because he pulled up the house, this area, and virtually all the houses are in the middle.
Except for,
Except
his.
this
You
one.
found a locus for it? Yeah.
Yeah, most of the houses are aligned in the middle.
yeah, too, it's a
I
little.
think his next door neighbor on the other side is biased as well.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Your neighbor to your, if you look, front door to the other side, it looks
It's like-
close to that one side as well, on this. But the
Yes.
neighbors across the street and everything like that, and around them, the houses are in the middle.
Yeah, the guy right next to you, though, yeah, is similar to yours.
Yeah.
He's very close to the property line.
Maybe they wanted more,
Oh, look at this
Yeah,
house.
I'm not
Look at this
sure, but
house
that
over
definitely
here.
creates a hardship in my view.
Yeah, I mean, the house
Would
placement
the
is
board
a-
be open to a 14-foot wide structure, which would leave just
7
under
feet.
9 feet on the front side, and 7 feet on the back, because the lot goes diagonal?
again, it's the hardship, the variance requirement for the hardship is where we, the law, the mass law clearly states the 3 guidelines that were given to determine for a variance for a hardship.
I think his
topography,
argument is
soil,
that
or lot.
the house location creates the hardship.
Mm-hmm.
He inherited that, so to speak. So-
Well, and to be
How does
fair,
that fall under topography, lot shape,
Soil conditions
or
or lot shape.
soil conditions? Which is
Right.
clearly stated in
You
the
have to go by those
Massachusetts
guidelines
state law. I
specifically.
mean,
Yeah, I
that's
think
not even our bylaws, like,
I think lot shape is definitely covered under that.
your house, like,
I think placement of the house on the lot as well as the lot shape.
Placement of the house is different than lot shape, though.
Yeah. That's,
I mean, I do think a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance or bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or appellant.
yeah, but.
And that desire relief
re-
may be granted. I feel like that's pretty.
Yeah, but you're enforcing it
relevant.
because, not enforcing it because of soil, shape, or topography. And if you were enforcing it because of in reflection of those would cause the financial hardship.
Oh,
Like, if you
I
have
don't
to
read it that
drill
way.
through, like, granite. just
Well, I
to
mean,
go
having to
from there.
relocate my driveway and potentially reduce my property value because instead of having a garage that's nicely attached next to my kitchen with a walk-through the way that it should be, and I have to place a standalone garage on the kind of
No,
haphazard
what it's
side of
saying
my
is
house, I feel
what it's
like I
saying
would
is
consider.
strictly enforcing the bylaws regardless of land would cause a severe financial hardship.
So, but if we were to say
So-
you can't put a garage here, but you can put one on the left because you have tons of room, that would be us strictly enforcing the bylaws. Do
But-
you know what I mean? He has the room on the left to put the garage there. So if we were to say, well, according to the bylaws, you can't put the garage on the right side of your house, you can only put it on the left side of your house. That would be us strictly enforcing the
But no-
bylaws. Right?
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with soil, topography, or lot size.
But I think
Loss.
if you read into that on the next level, us telling him that he could put the garage on the left wouldn't be causing him financial hardship because he wouldn't have to do so. It would be if he chose to do it and then rip up all the other stuff. I mean, we're not mandating that he has to do it. We're just saying, well, that's your option and you could choose not
see what
to,
you're
so.
saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And what it's saying is if we enforce the bylaws, and by doing so, the topography of his land or the soil conditions of his land would increase the financial hardship of his project. So we could do a variance to eliminate that hardship because the conditions of his soil would increase the financial hardship of his project, or the topography would increase the financial burden of his project. So that gives us the permission to do a variance, so that he doesn't incur an additional cost because he has a cliff in the back of his yard or slate in his underneath. That's how that's where we're getting the leniency for variances, to prevent him from having to have some rock pounder come in with some big machine and drill out 60 tons of whatever in his earth.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's secondary. Or it's not
Well,
secondary.
I'm going to ask if anyone in the audience is in favor or opposition to this, if they'd like to speak, just to keep moving through the process.
Where's the brook? Where's the,
We don't have a problem putting a garage on the right side.
Hey,
Anyone
if
see
I-
the brook?
Just get your name and address, 4 Freeman and...
is it man-made?
14.
14?
I'm sorry, the name again?
Oh, we still got the 14. Well, he's still doing it. There's nothing we can
Oh,
do.
it's
Thank you.
tight, look, yeah, you can see it back here.
I'm just trying to figure out how this can happen, so we're allowed to
See it
give
right
you the
there.
variance. That's really the problem, is we just can't.
As I read through the Massachusetts case law, I'm not a lawyer, but as I read through it, it does speak to the language of the variance request, and it does sound as if the board is given certain liberty to allow variances. The laws are written such that it's not expected that the literal enforcement of that law is followed 100% of the time. That's my understanding of that.
But to qualify for a variance, we do have standards.
Right, oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I do feel that I have met those standards.
I'm going to ask the building inspector. Jose?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you consider the location of the house on a lot part of the topography that could be considered for a variance. In this case, the house is located very close to the right side of the property, I mean, to the point where it's in a pre-existing non-conforming. And does that,
Play into lot shape.
does that location play to, yeah, lot shape or topography, I guess?
Yeah, well, this one, the width of this garage is 16 feet. The setback requirements are 25 feet. You only have 5 feet of room between the garage if it's built and the abutter.
Correct.
I thought that there are other areas in the lot that the garage could be placed. And unfortunately, I thought that in this specific spot, it will be creating a little bit of an adverse impact on the neighbor.
Even with their approval, I don't disagree, because it's so close. I mean, it just is.
If the garage is, and again, I'm not telling the applicant where to place the garage, but if it was to be placed on the left-hand side, he will have, if you take the 25 feet from that 47 feet, he will be left with actually 25, so he will be 16 feet. From that 47 will be 31 feet. And if he goes for a 20% reduction, that will take another 6 feet away. So when I wrote the denial, it was based more on the information provided and the conditions
There's
of
opportunities there for relocation.
Yes, sir.
If we were to shrink the size down slightly and increase that 5 feet on the back end to 7 feet, would the board be agreeable to that?
It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I don't think it's significant enough. The problem is, and we're not held to precedent, but we have to consider it when we're, it's really hard to say it's okay for you and not for someone else. You know, it's really a difficult position to put us in. And I just think it's too close for myself to feel comfortable with it. I mean, we can take the vote, we can continue it if you want to go back to the drawing board and look at some options. You know, whatever you feel is best. I would struggle to approve this. It's just too close to the property line. I mean, you're already pre-existing non-conforming on that side.
That's right.
You don't even have the 25-foot setback to begin with. So to add 16 feet to that is really, it's difficult to do that and then to say to someone else, you can't do this because you're encroaching. And we don't have a hardship that we can sort of say, he has a ledge in the back that he can't put a garage there, or a huge embankment, or, you know, any impediment that's typically granted with a variance. It's just not there. That is my opinion, and, you know, the board is gonna vote as a board.
It's my opinion as well.
I don't, like, as far as the positioning of the house, yeah, it may not make sense putting it on the left, but you could even have the option of swinging it parallel to the porch, running off the back of your mudroom, keeping it on the same side for flow purposes, and having it face, and then you just, you know, extend your drive and pull in, is an option where you can still at least stay at the 20. I mean,
I think the issue then is that we'll be within 50 feet of the brook. So that is part of the hardship.
And that
Is
is
is there
a
a is
topography thing, but I don't think that's your only option.
Yeah,
And
I
I do
didn't know
think
there's.
that before
it
you hit
that close?
25 feet, you probably would be okay with the conservation.
Yeah, I think it's
With
25.
care. They're pretty good about it. I can't speak for them, of course, but there are options, I guess, and that's what further cements my, I just can't get on board with it. It's just too close. Even at 7 feet, it's close.
Yeah, I recognize that.
I guess I could take a motion to close the public hearing.
Are we voting?
Unless you'd like to withdraw and look at, another plan and utilize a special permit on the other side, or, you can withdraw at this point. We won't vote on it. There'll be no vote. I mean, I'm one vote. I think that, it's not looking good. That's, I can honestly tell you.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that you want to do it. Honestly, I'm not trying to get in your way at all. I just can't see a path that we can do this and maintain the integrity of the board as we need to do it.
I understand. I'll withdraw the request.
Okay, I appreciate that. Good luck with it.
Thank you for the consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your understanding.
Well,
I get it.
we will need a motion to accept the withdrawal and
I make a motion to accept the withdrawal from the petition
without prejudice.
without prejudice.
Second.
Second by Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you want to hear?
It's hard.
It is tough.
Did anyone get a chance to review the minutes from November 4th, 2021?
I reviewed them and I gave her my changes, which she said she made, so I'm good with them.
Are those the ones from last, did we look at those last month?
No, we didn't get to do them this month.
November,
I
December, and
think the
January are
December
open at
was
this
the
point.
same as last month.
Did you give it notes for the 3?
Yes. I didn't have notes for December. A lot of pressure.
Anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 4th, December 2nd, and January 6th?
I don't think I was here for, I missed,
We can do them individually, or we can
Yeah.
have someone else.
I can make a
Make the
motion
motion.
to approve the minutes from November 4th, 2021, December 2nd, 2021, and January 6th, 2022.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second the motion.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Jamie, that was an aye?
I,
Aye. Unanimous.
I motion to close.
January I
To
wasn't here.
adjourn.
January was the one I
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Always great to see your shiny face.
Good night, everyone.